This video is sponsored by Mark 7 Car Wash Equipment, providing clean, dry, shiny cars for over 50 years. Visit mark7.net for more information.
Hello and welcome to Unscripted, the video series that connects you with market leaders. Today on our Unscripted video, we welcome Richard Reina, Product Training Director at carid.com. Hello, Richard, and thank you for joining us here today.
Hey, Rich, it's my pleasure to be with you. Happy to be here.
All right, sounds good. Well, as you know, Richard, this interview here is a follow-up to the article we worked on together earlier this year on micro scratches and swirl marks and some of the causes and solutions that detailers can employ out there in the field. As you might know, Richard, the average age of vehicles is over 11 years old, to be approximate 11.9 years old. So people are keeping their cars longer these days. So these swirl marks and these micro scratches are definitely a common issue for some folks out there. So my first question for you, Richard, is how can automobile owners and detailers and car wash operators minimize risk when it comes to the damage caused from swirl marks and micro scratches?
Rich, it's very important to understand that whoever touches the car's surface, whether it's the vehicle owner, whether it's being taken care of in a professional environment, there are proper ways and improper ways to clean and maintain the car's surface. Now, from my experience of professional car wash operations and even detailers, they've really stepped up their game in recent years, and they've recognized as vehicles have newer finishes, they've had to change their methods for the better in order to minimize the likelihood of scratches, micro scratches, and swirls. A lot of times it's the well-intentioned vehicle owner who goes out, he or she, to wash their vehicle. And again, well-intentioned they may be, they don't understand that their approach is creating some problems. They may have an hour gap on a Saturday or Sunday. They may grab a bucket and grab some dish soap out of the kitchen and maybe a terry cloth towel out of the basement, excuse me, and there they go, and they're washing their vehicle. And do they get the dirt off the surface? Absolutely they do. However, they may not realize that more than likely not using the proper materials and proper approach, that's definitely introducing micro scratches and swirls. Whereas at the professional level, again, using the proper equipment, using cloths, microfiber cloths or sponges that get washed on a regular basis, and using soaps and detergents that are specifically formulated for use on vehicles. That kind of approach certainly will minimize or eliminate any possibility of introducing these micro scratches or swirls to the paint.
Understood. Just another reason to get folks out of the driveway and into a professional car wash or at a professional detailer. So, Richard, can these swirl marks and micro scratches become permanent issues if left untreated? And how does time play a role in a detailer's ability for correction here?
Rich, it's important to understand that these swirls and micro scratches, they will not heal themselves. We'll talk about wax maybe a little bit later, but if an owner, vehicle owner, thinks that waxing the vehicle will make those scratches go away, it will not. It may cover them up. It may reintroduce a shine to the surface, but it certainly will not cure the surface. What happens is that at best, as I said, the surface will not cure itself. In a worst case scenario, the micro scratches allow dirt to embed itself deeper and deeper into the vehicle's paint. And again, in a worst case scenario, as that top coat, the clear coat, breaks down, you have the possibility, as extreme as it is, that the clear coat collapses and now you've created irrevocable damage to the vehicle's paint surface the only cure in that case is to repaint the panel.
Okay. So speaking of clear coat here, what are the best types of equipment, chemicals, and processes to use when looking to fix or correct clear coat related issues such as these swirl marks and micro scratches that we're talking about?
Well, you just asked me about clear coat, and I did mention it a moment ago. Let's make sure we understand for our audience what the clear coat is. Because almost all vehicles, new vehicles sold in this country, going back probably 30 years or so, Rich, have been painted with what's called a two-stage paint. So we have a base coat, which is the color coat. That's the color you see, white, black, red, blue. And then on top of that base color coat is a clear coat. Now, the clear coat does a great job in protecting the base coat, protecting the paint coat, and the clear coat definitely adds some depth and some nice shine to the vehicle. However, if micro scratches and swirls are introduced to the paint, they're going to be introduced to the clear coat itself. And as hard as the clear coat is, it still can be scratched. And in order to fix this, it's the clear coat that needs attention. The second thing I want to address quickly before I actually answer your question, if I may, is to make sure we understand the different kinds of chemical solutions that are out there. I have found, even among acquaintances of mine and even automobile enthusiasts, there's a lot of misunderstanding about a cleaning compound versus a polish versus a wax. And they're all different compounds. So taking them in turn, first the cleaning compound, sometimes called the buffing compound, that's the most aggressive of the three. That's going to have abrasives in it. They may be very fine abrasives, but that has the abrasives that actually cut the surface and remove the swirls and the micro scratches. An analogy to the buffing compound is sandpaper, even very fine sandpaper, but it's similar to sandpaper. Next, I mentioned polish. Now, polish is what feeds the paint and actually adds some oil back to the paint. And really, it's the polish where you get the luster restored to the paint. And the polish is maybe similar to hand lotion that you would put on your hands. So a hand lotion feeds the oil back into your skin. And think of polish that way. The final chemical to talk about is the wax. And the wax is nothing more than a protective top coat. And you really should not put wax on top of a vehicle's paint until it's absolutely clean and until you've absolutely taken all the steps necessary to both remove the scratches and to restore the luster through polish, because wax is not going to do that job for you.
Even more reason to visit a professional detailer or car wash to correct these issues. Now, Richard, my final question for you here, and we mentioned a little bit of this in the opening. One big mistake that car care or that car owners make is trying to fix these issues themselves and maybe making the problem worse, going into the driveway with the bucket and a hose here. So what are the most common mistakes that you see car owners and or professional detailers make when trying to fix these surface issues?
What I've seen mainly has been problems with car owners. Again, following this for a number of years as I have, the professionals, the detail shops that have sprung up, and even professional car wash businesses that have started maybe a side business doing some cleaning and detailing, they have such an incredible array of compounds and support materials available to them. And with practice and experience, and Rich, it definitely takes some time and some experience to get good at this. I've seen them really been able to wrestle this problem in a good way and be able to cure the micro scratches. Again, I'm not saying that the homeowner cannot do this, but let's talk in answer to your question about some of the common mistakes that a homeowner makes. One common mistake I made, I kind of mentioned it a few minutes ago, is thinking that wax will cure the scratch problem. I laughed to myself. I remember being a teenager and waxing my dad's car and putting so much elbow grease into it, thinking I had to press so hard on the panels to wax the car. And frankly, it took me many, many years to realize that all that pressure does nothing. The wax, the chemical material itself is not going to increase the shine, and it's not going to take the scratches out. So that's one mistake, is thinking that the wax is going to get rid of the scratches, right? Another mistake that people make is using too aggressive a compound when the homeowner goes into an auto parts store and buys a bottle of polish or compound and doesn't really follow directions very carefully, or maybe doesn't even look at the label. So again, this is all very well meaning on the car owner's part, but the car owner has some swirls or micro scratches, and the car owner buys this bottle of very aggressive rubbing compound, which is much more aggressive than is needed for the fine scratches that are on the vehicle. And instead of making the problem better, the car owner actually makes the problem worse. A third problem I'll mention that's related to that is even if the car owner chooses the correct bottles of solution and has a bottle of, let's say, buffing compound and a bottle of polish and a bottle of wax, the car owner fails to use a different towel or foam pad for each of these solutions and creates what we call cross-contamination. So you really must make sure that you use a dedicated towel for each of these solutions. Cross-contamination is going to result in one step forward and two steps back. And you're just going to reintroduce the swirls and the micro scratches that you took out in step one when you go to apply that polish in step two, but there's still some of that original solution on the towel, which frankly is another reason. Again, I'm not saying that the private individual can't do these things, but it does take some education and experience. And if it's a late model car, if a car that you have an emotional attachment to, or a valuable car, you might really want to think about turning the job over to someone who's more experienced in getting those scratches out of the finish for you.
For sure, yeah. For a lot of people, their vehicles are their second biggest investment behind their house. So it's worth a little money up front to protect that investment over the long term for sure. So, Richard, you've always been enthusiastic to help us out with these detailing topics. Anybody interested in reading the article on micro scratches and swirl marks that we worked on earlier this year can visit carwash.com to read that article. Thank you again, Richard, for taking a few minutes to discuss this topic with us here for carwash.com today.
Rich, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you very much.